Let's get started and welcome to our session on the global resilient dryland strategy. I hope during the next hour we get a few more interested people, but nevertheless we get started. So this strategy was developed over the last year by the CGIAR centers. So we had a working group composed from members of each of the 14 centers and steered by the group of the DDGRs. Over the last year, so this was developed, and then a number of roadshows took place where this strategy was presented to different NAS, like in Ethiopia, like in Morocco, like in Turkey, in Pakistan, in order to discuss the strategy with the clients. Because our partners are the National Agricultural Research System as well as development partners, to get their input and feedback. And so part of this series is today that we would like to discuss this again, to collect further input, and hopefully, by the next COP in December, that we can officially present it as a CG strategy. So that's at least the idea and the intention. Now, in order to get started, I suggest we start with a video in order to understand, what is the work in the drylands, and so in order to set the background for the presentations. Video, please.
CGIAR region and the Middle East in general are one of the hardest hit regions in the world in terms of climate change, which makes it very difficult for farmers to practice agriculture the way they have done for the past hundreds of years.
Climate change is a reality in the 21st century. And it's particularly true that in Africa and in Asia, they are experiencing a significant amount of issues in the dryland areas. There is a power to shape the future in what we are doing within this global strategy. We look forward to the new opportunities to harness the power of science and innovation to make real differences in the lives of people and communities in the dryland regions of the globe.
It is critical for the CGIAR to be on the forefront developing new technologies, seeds, agricultural management techniques, leveraging of digital technologies to help farmers manage changing climate environments. The development of the strategy was done in a very engaging and a consultative way with our NARS partners and collaborators, private operators, as well as other CGIAR centers, being an integral part of the design process and through a reiterative process of feedback cycles that help us reach with the final strategy in the current shape and form that it is.
Okay, I think that was a nice introduction to the subject. And now, before we start on the presentation, I would like to introduce the panelists, because after the presentation, we'll have 4 panelists here to discuss what we have seen in the presentation. So, myself, I'm Michael Baum. I'm from ICADA. I'm the team leader for breeding. For the last 3.5 years, I have been also the acting DDG for research. We also have with us, as you have seen already in the movie, Dr. Stan Blade from ICRISAT, who is a DDG of research from ICRISAT, who is also currently the acting DDG, the acting DG, until the new DG is coming into place. We also have with us Dr. Funke from IMI. She is Director for Impact in Africa from our sister center IMI. But important is also to hear a few representatives of the NAS, and which are our primary research partners. And so we have with us also Dr. Meraj Abbasov, who is Azerbaijani and is the executive director of the biotechnology laboratory in the Ministry of Science and Technology. And we had hoped to have 2 more candidates online, but unfortunately the internet is not supporting us. But I think between you will be there? Yeah, so we have one more NAS voice from Morocco, Dr. Rashid Mosaddak, because it's important really also to hear the perspective from the NAS. Okay, that's now I will briefly present you what is the core of this strategy that we have developed over the last year. So I can say this is truly a joint product by all the research centers, because in the end all the 14 centers have contributed, either in person or on the Word version of the document. And so I think that's a powerful message to have all the 14 centers participating. And it's really the combined expertise that's available there for the Drylands. And as I said, I hope we can roll it out by the end of the year, so that we have this strategy in place that can guide us in the next few years. Now, the global drylands, as you can see here, there are different definitions and so on. I mean, we can, as you can see by the color code, we can describe them by hyper-arid, arid, semi-arid, and dry humid regions. And of course, we are concerned mainly about the drylands in the developing world, not so much in the developing world. But as you can see, it covers about 45% of the surface of the Earth. Close to 3 billion people living in the drylands. That's 1 in 3 people living on this planet. And there are numerous problems related to the drylands. One is, of course, climate change, and that is really the topic for the COP, the climate change COP. And so what we see in parts of the Mediterranean region, that the 1.5 degrees that was agreed upon in the Paris Agreement to be reached by the end of the century, that has already been surpassed in a number of countries. So we expect more like 4 degrees or 5 degrees, the temperature increase by the end of the century, which with all the problems that are related to it. There are numerous problems about the soils, degraded soils, and the salinization of soils in the drylands, and many other aspects, many challenges that that we hope to put into opportunities. We don't like to talk too much about the challenges, but see if they can be turned into opportunities. And so we have come up with 5 major opportunities that we want to focus on in order for the transformation of the drylands, to achieve the transformation of the drylands, the resilient drylands. So these 5 opportunities are elaborated as follows. The first one is optimization of agri-food systems to adapt to climate change. And here are especially the dryland communities which are on the front line of climate change. So here we talk about co-designing climate-smart, diversified dryland and desert farming systems, the prioritization of breeding of crucial food and forage crops, such as wheat, rice, barley, lentils, chickpeas, millet, sorghum, pigeon pea, sweet potatoes, cactus and others. We're talking about supporting climate adaptation in livestock and agriculture, a very important component. Promoting water management strategies and innovation. Developing climate risk management strategies, decision support and early warning systems. And about adopting participatory management and multi-stakeholder approaches. The second opportunity for the dryland is the conserving and using of the biodiversity to support resilient ecosystems and communities. We are interested in the functional biodiversity that is essential for ecosystem services and community resilience. We promote mixed cropping systems to integrate diverse varieties, species and systems. We invest in underutilized and indigenous crops to strengthen their economic competitiveness. There are global initiatives such as NUS and VAX. Encouraging agroforestry for soil stabilization, water regulation and other benefits. Using agroecological and nature positive approaches. Collection ex situ and use of and repatriation of dryland seeds. Facilitating community-based seed banks and seed systems. And developing payment for ecosystem services schemes, nature credits and carbon credits. I mean, especially carbon credits as a new emerging field that many of us are interested in. The third opportunity for the drylands is to manage the soil, land and water systems to sustainably intensified production. Here we talk about or want to co-develop regenerative agriculture, especially conservation agriculture, and agroecological approaches using diversified crops, no-tillage practices, water-efficient techniques, mulching and others. To implement traditional rainwater and surface water harvesting and storage groundwater management, wastewater treatment and reuse, and integrated management of water resources. It's about increasing efficiency in water management to maintain productivity, especially during dry times, developing green energy solutions, and considering the nexus of water, energy, food, and environment in all approaches. The fourth opportunity is to ensure access to sustainable health diets to alleviate hunger and malnutrition. Here is about promoting nutrient-dense diverse crops and animal-sourced foods, encouraging shifts in household-level dietary patterns through education programs, awareness programs, market intervention and institutional support, and policy incentives, with a focus on pregnant and lactating women and infants. Supporting agribusiness entrepreneurship in the private sector to develop healthy food products for both rural and urban consumers. It's partnering with humanitarian agencies to mitigate the vulnerabilities of people in fragile and conflict-affected areas, including internally displaced persons and refugees. Finally, the fifth opportunity for the Drylands is to promote inclusive, equitable development to nurture safety and peace. This is addressing structural inequalities which are essential to transform dryland agri-food systems. Here we're talking about co-designing inclusive innovations, policies and practices to foster sustainable development and positive peace, to conduct local policy dialogues and developing climate-based conflict management systems to mitigate conflicts over resources, to generate evidence for informed decision-making, enhancing technology adoption. It's about addressing bottlenecks in sustainable land management practices, such as in land tenure, lack of access to information, services, transport and markets. Assisting partners to achieve national targets, strategies and adoption action plans in compliance with the three bio conventions, UNCBD, UNFCCC that we have here, and the UNCCD that the COP that we have later in Saudi Arabia. Now, these are the five opportunities, but also the way, I mean, the CG is working, which underpins all our undertaking, is gender equality, youth and social inclusion. Here we talk about equitable approaches that empower marginalized groups and address socio-economic barriers, equal access to innovation capacity building for women, youth and marginalized communities, provide affordable and accessible varieties and breeds tailored to the market needs. Innovation, scaling and adoption is to invest in modern digital tools, big data and advanced monitoring technologies. Third is working in the fragile and conflicted areas. The 15 countries that ICADA is working in, or 16 countries, 8 of them are in conflict or post-conflict. So that's fragile and conflicted affected settings in the dryland ecosystems are compounded by accelerated climate change, unsustainable resource utilization, poor governance, and weak social cohesion, leading to economic disruptions, forced migration, conflict, and severe hunger and malnutrition. And finally, implementing the CGIAR Resilient Dryland Strategy requires a unified global effort between CGIAR, national governments, academic institutions, global policy bodies, private companies, and civil society, underpinned by effective partnerships and purposeful advocacy. We have developed a number of targets and indicators. The CG uses 5 impact areas, such as nutritional health and food security, such as poverty reduction, livelihoods and jobs, gender equality, youth and social inclusion, climate adaptation mitigation, and environmental health and biodiversity. For each of them we have targets and indicators in order to monitor our achievement. This is a strategy that should cover the time till 2030, and thank you for your attention. If you are interested to scan the QR code, there are a number of questions. If you like to comment on this, then there should be an opportunity to do so and provide feedback and on this strategy. I would like now the 4 panelists to come to the here. Okay, so you have heard, you have seen the video and you have heard the presentation about the strategy. So you know that the challenges in the drylands, they can also offer opportunities to work in the drylands. So I would like to ask the panelists a number of questions and see, how they can answer and how they can respond. So the first one is, what are the most important developments in the drylands in your country, in your center, in your region? Who would like to start? I can start with...
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I'm coming from the International Water Management Institute. And from the name, you will know that we work on water. We are the water center for the CGIAR. So responding to that question, I'll take it from the perspective of my center. And we are working mostly in Africa, in Asia, and of course in the Middle East. The most important dryland-related development is, of course, about water insecurity. And that is why we are set up. So when we're talking about water security itself, it's about people having access and being able to afford the right quantity of water at the right time and the right quality for whatever purpose that they want it for. But we have seen a lot of variability in the water. When we're talking about climate change, climate variability, we're actually talking about water variability. Of course, temperature is very important. So water is a key issue that has created a lot of challenges, not only not being available for the smallholder farmers, but also trigger other things. Trigger hunger, it triggers conflict, it triggers migration, so it becomes very complex when you're looking at water security issues. So over the years, and with the climate change issue, you see a lot of migration, you see a compounded problems, pollution of water resources, either from the industry or also even agriculture polluting water, agriculture drawing a lot of water from other uses. So it's very complex. So for us at the International Water Management Institute, that's what we are set out to address, that complexity in its entirety, and looking at it beyond just providing water for a particular commodity crop or livestock, but looking at the complexity of water and how to handle it in different contexts. So let me stop there as that particular question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Funke, and thank you to Michael Baum for the invitation to come and speak today about the launch of this consultation around the global strategy on resilient drylands. And of course, welcome to our colleagues that are online as well from around the world. It's great that you are also joining us. My name is Stan Blade. I'm the Interim Director General for ICRISAT, the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics. We are very active both in Asia and Africa. Our headquarters are based in Patancheru, just outside of Hyderabad in India, but we have several locations also in sub-Saharan Africa, both eastern, western, and in southern Africa. The question is an interesting one. Our ethos within ICRISAT is transforming dryland agriculture, so clearly this is a direct fit when we think about the opportunities around the global strategy. From a legacy standpoint, we work a lot with crops that fit very well into dryland areas. We work on sorghum, we work on millet, and some of you may recall that we had the Year of Millets in 2023, where across the world people were thinking anew about these remarkable species that perform so well in dryland areas. We also work on grain legumes, so looking at pigeon pea and groundnut and chickpea. These are the crops that fit so well into the areas that we work in, both in Asia and in Africa. So how do we think about this? We try to connect the agricultural part. Of course, we do plant breeding. We have 130,000 accessions in our gene bank. We do the plant breeding. We work on the agronomy and the agriculture piece. We also work on the food aspect, how agriculture connects to food. And then you would imagine that we also do a great deal of policy work and other activities around nutrition that leads all the way through to human health. So we take a a systems approach to how it is that we can work in the drylands. We think we have the tools and the technologies that can all fit together, and I look forward to sharing some of those examples as we go through the panel. Thank you very much.
Okay. Dear Dr. Baum, first of all, I would like to thank you for this discussion which we organized in Baku. And also I would like to thank CGIAR for this strategy. As you know, dryland is one of the big problem in many countries, including Azerbaijan, because in Azerbaijan, 70% of our water resources coming from the neighbor countries. It is the big problem. In addition, last 20 years, I can say precipitation decreased almost 14%. And we have the calculation mainly maybe in the end of this century, we will lose almost 10% of our water resources. It is the big problem, and I can say it is the results of the climate change. And today, Michael mentioned that climate change, temperature will increase. In the world, we know it will increase 1.5 Celsius degree, but in our region, including Azerbaijan, temperature will increase 2 times more, 3.9 Celsius degree. That's why we need to focus this issue. In Azerbaijan, the second big problem is the soil problem. As you know, in Soviet time we have used, still now we are using the bad irrigation system, and that's why salinity is the big problem. I can say more than 70% of Azerbaijan arable land now on the salinity. And the third problem is the desertification. You know, we have not a lot of forest area, only 10%. And end of this century will increase 7.6 thousand hectares we will lose at the end of this century. And when we lose the forest, we also lose the biodiversity. As a Genetic Resource Institute, we are trying to collect, to conserve our genetic resources, mainly crop wild relatives. As you know, crop wild relatives is very important tools to create drought-tolerant varieties. And in Azerbaijan, you know, not only in Azerbaijan, our region is close to the Fertile Crescent, and it is the main center of many agricultural crops. That's why we think these resources is important not only for Azerbaijan, it is important, it is valuable resources for all over the world. That's why we are trying to conserve. Now, after Soviet Union, we created National Gene Bank, and we have 10,000 accessions in our gene bank, mainly local accessions. But we have the future plan. We can talk later, but just here I want to say we have the plan for 2030 and 2050. Within the BOLD project is the Global Crop Trust project. We will try to increase number of accessions to 50,000 in 2050, and in 2,100 years, hopefully, we will have almost 100,000 accessions. Because in Soviet time, we conserved 70,000 accessions in Vavilov Research Institute, but now we have only 10,000. That's why we hope in the future we will cover all our resources. Thank you.
May I now try to have Dr. Rashid Musaddak from Morocco online?
Do you hear me, Michael? You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Unfortunately, I couldn't be with you, but I think at least online we can give a situation in Morocco, which is really after 4 years of drought, successful year of drought, we noted that the really situation of climate change is impacting not only Morocco, but can I say all part of this Mediterranean area. And that's have an impact directly on availability of water. We have only 23% of water that we normally we should receive around to 10 million of meter cube, but now it reduced dramatically. And also we noted that the production, mainly wheat production, because Morocco is mainly using cereal in its production, we decrease of this production by more than 50%. Just last year, we have only 3 million ton for cereal versus 6 million ton that we normally need to have. That's impact the food security in the country. And we noted that this kind of climate change impact makes some question about the system that we are using to produce in Morocco. Since last 3 years, Morocco launched what we call it the Green Generation Strategy, which is a strategy for 2013 that aim to increase the production and also to have more stability in the yield. But due to these issues of climate change that come really distributing can I say, objectives, we need to propose other alternative to this food system. And fortunately, we have some institutional ecosystem like ICARDA and other partners working with NARS to propose some alternative as highlighted by colleagues before. We have the both issues in Morocco. We have the issues of water, but also the issues of soil. We have big issues with soil erosion. More than 20 million hectares are degraded in Morocco, which is make this area very vulnerable. And also we have issues of biodiversity. Due to these issues of the desert, can I say the issues of dry water availability, we lost a lot of our potential material. Fortunately, we have this gene bank again, thanks to ICARDA and also with NARS, trying to at least protect these sources, and we can propose some naturally-based solutions, maybe that we can explore, we discuss later in the coming question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid. Okay, which brings me to the second question. I mean, we have another round of, maybe we use the same order. So the question is, what innovations can you, your center, your organization provide to address these challenges in the dryland? Because we have a water center, we have a crop center, we have and the perspective from the NARS. So that's important to know what innovations can we use to address those problems.
Thank you very much. That's very, very interesting questions, and it's builds on what our partner from Morocco was saying. In my earlier introduction, I talked about the fact that my organization, ILMIN, is working in dry areas already, because everybody's talking about water here. Okay, so how do we do it? Our approach is to look at it from the outcome perspective. What do we want? There's a risk, there's water risk. We've talked about water risk. There's aspect of managing water. So we develop tools, we develop frameworks, we develop decision support tools, technologies, innovations, approaches that can help us to mitigate or alleviate as much as possible the water risk. So if I address the water risk, that is one cluster of things that we do. In addressing those water risks, how do we do it? Look at things like early warning system to help us to be able to predict flood or drought event, drought monitoring tools. Example is recently from the CGIAR initiative, where we have developed the aware early warning, early action, early finance system dashboard that has been launched in some countries presently, like in Zambia, in Senegal, Nigeria 2 weeks ago. We're there looking at Rwanda and many other countries in Asia, Sri Lanka and all that, and South America as well. So what does this do? It helps national governments to be able to predict when there will be flood events, and working together with them to actually think about the actions that they will have to deploy. and the kind of finance that we have to go with that action. So collaboratively, it's a kind of governance dashboard that has been developed. I mean, there are several technologies as well that can help us to account for water. Where do we have the water? Sometimes we think we don't have water, we may have water. Sometimes farmers think they don't have water, but they actually have water. Maybe they don't see the water. Maybe they think they don't have surface water, but there's groundwater, or maybe there's wastewater that can be all forms of water, glaciers, whatever, all forms of water that we can harvest and use. So we use big data, we use AI tools to actually, remote sensing tools to actually determine the quantity of water that's available, and when, where, how, and talk about seasonality and what it can be used for. If you use it for agriculture, what do you have for the other sectors? Or if it's not utilized, it's not yet allocated, which sector can best use it, and what do we have left for agriculture? So we use this to inform specific technology that will help us to manage agriculture. Let's say like solar irrigation is one of the ways we can mitigate water risk, right? And if you're going to use solar irrigation to diversify cropping season from beyond rainfed to go to the dry season production to increase farmer income, we need such tools to be able to tell us where do we have potential suitability for deployment or for scaling of solar irrigation. So we use all that kind of tools. There are several other tools. I talked about the fact that water crisis leads to more crisis, leads to more fragility, leads to migration and all that. So there are tools that we have developed to help us advise people in fragile communities and fragile regions how they can respond, anticipatory actions that can be developed to help them, or some participatory governance tool that local government can mainstream into decision-making process and their planning processes. Those are some of the things. And the aspect of using alternative water sources, it's not just about surface water or groundwater. What about wastewater? We do a lot of work on wastewater reuse, treatments of wastewater, even where we have to recover biosolids from there and use it for agriculture and ensure that water is not, the water bodies or the environment is not polluted, to ensure the biodiversity aspect of the environment. So those are some of the things, but there are several others. When it comes to managing water sustainably in the field, we also look at it from the perspective of water-saving technologies. Let's say for beyond rain-fed system, we need to diversify crop system as a part of adaptation measures. And how do we do that? We need to look at water-saving technologies, irrigation scheduling tools, moisture management tools, and all that, and that will help farmers to be able to use water. I remember just now something that we did in Ghana, whereby farmers thought that they needed to apply water every 7 days in the dry season. But introducing just a very simple device, water scaling tool, they realized that, they thought they needed to apply every 3 days. But introducing that tool, they were able to apply every 7 days. They have enough moisture. Just a little transformation was able to change, the dynamics in the system. They could grow more and all that. So there are many water-saving technologies and practices. Rather than allow water to just be flowing away, how can we maximize it? How can we promote small-scale irrigation that will not lose much water? What kind of technology? These are things that IMI does in many countries, and I can give you many, many examples in different countries. In Africa, for example, we have worked in more than 20 countries where we are located in all the regions where we are helping, and also being able to help at the national level and at the local level, working at this level. I must mention, that we're not doing it alone. Collective action is very important. So we work with a range of partners, private sector, how to incentivize them to help farmers, particularly when it comes to access to financing and all that. Maybe we can talk about that later. But working with diverse range of stakeholders, we are able to provide these solutions and make them available. Finally, on this point, I must say that in the last couple of months, we have also worked on the One CGIAR water system integration roadmap, which I think is just like a companion to your strategy, because there it details 3 outcome pathways, mitigating risk, sustainably managing risk, managing water, and also reducing inequality in the use of water for agriculture, as well as some 4 levers, transformational levers that can help us to achieve those outcomes when it comes to data science, when it comes to gender, or scaling innovation and financing. So these are things that have been developed that will help us to actually integrate water management from your crop biodiversity stuff and genetics innovation to the basin level, to the consumption level, to post-production, post-harvest and consumption. So that is a roadmap and it's a companion to your strategy, I will say, which I think is very important for us as a CGIAR in implementing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. Also, maybe one point to mention is that in the last 3 years we had a number of initiatives, and one of the initiatives is F2RC1. I mean, that's so in the 6 regions in the CG, and that's already was an attempt really to try also that the centers work together. So I was leading the initiative F2RC1 with my co-lead from IMI. You know, so it's really trying to bring disciplines together, and that will carry over into the science program scaling, where we will try really to have bundles of solutions. So not thinking only about one, you know, like only crop improvement or only agronomy. So really how to put this all together so that it can be scaled out large scale. So going to another crop center, I mean.
Thank you very much, and I would just congratulate Emi and the partners. I was with your Director General where he released the roadmap last week, and it looks fantastic, and I think you're right, we all fit there. I'll just tell 4 little quick tight stories when it comes to the kinds of innovations that ICRISAT works on. Clearly it's about introducing crops where there is a fit given on some of the change that goes on. In September, I was with the Honorable Minister from Zimbabwe, the Minister of Agriculture, and they are very concerned in maize-based systems where some of their agro-ecosystems now get 300 millimeters of rain or 400 millimeters when they used to have double that, and they're very keen on introducing crops like millet and sorghum to be able to fit into these lower precipitation systems that have been evolving over the past 2 or 3 decades. The second piece that I would say is just around what Dr. Funke has made reference to. In several states in India, we are working on water saving, water harvesting, all of those things that are possible and that are working now at a landscape level. And the third, you've just also reminded me as well, we have a great geospatial sciences group where we look especially at locations in India where there is rice fallow, and in fact through monitoring, through satellite systems, we can actually discover some of that residual water that people just didn't realize was there. So to be able to put in a pigeon pea crop or to put in a groundnut crop after the rice in the rice fallow system has created all kinds of opportunity. And then the fourth one I would just say around this whole area of value adding. I know it's stretching the drought aspect, but we work very closely with all kinds of entrepreneurs in both India and in Africa on seeing how we can actually take these crops that we produce within these regions and thinking about how do you actually add value to them to make sure that these healthy, nutrient-dense products become much more available. So those would be the 4 innovations, but clearly they have to be linked. None of them stand on their own.
Innovation, I think we have not the big experience like you have the big experience as international centers. But before using the innovation, we are trying to understand, to accept water is expensive, is valuable. We also trying to explain it to farmers. You have to use water using some technologies. For example, we are trying to apply drip irrigation. Just 10% of Azerbaijan arable land, we are using the drip irrigation. We have 1.5 million hectares. Only 10% we are using this system, you have the big experience on this technology. If we use it, we can save 2.5 times the water, and productivity will increase almost 2 times. But also government is trying to support the farmers. If you are using the drip irrigation system, 40% of the expenses covered by Ministry of Agriculture. And they have another tools. I don't know much about. They have a lot of subsidies. Also, but I want to talk about also biodiversity. How can we use the innovation in biodiversity? We trying to phenotype all our accessions in GenBank using the international descriptors. Also, 15 years ago, with the helping the ICARDA, we have established biotechnology lab in our institute. And last 15 years, we've genotype also 3,000 accessions. But now we are trying to use next generation sequencing technology. We want maybe in next 10 years we will have digital sequence information of all our accessions. Last 2 months ago, I have been in Morocco in ICARDA. They're using the speed breeding technology, and they reduce breeding program 6 years. But in Azerbaijan, now we have not the facility to use this technology. That's why we would like to collaborate with the ICARDA and other international centers to bring such kind of innovation to our region and to our country.
Thank you very much. Let's hear another country from another country perspective, from the NAS perspective. Dr. Rashid.
Thank you, Michael. You are right. You said that under this condition, what innovation are available. The problem is that we don't expect to have such as impact of climate change after 4 years of drought. The innovation that we need to set up should be ready now. Fortunately, with the work that we did last decade, we have some innovation. First of them is the conservation agriculture program that we launched with our partners, NARS and also ICARDA and all CG, as you say, you just raised the F2R C1 initiative. We have developed this, can I say, initiative that was adopted by the Ministry of Agriculture to reach 1 million hectares of conservation agriculture by 2013. Believe me, this is really a big challenges. We start now 3 years and we double, or can I say, multiply by 7 the area under CA. We start by around 50,000, and now we reached more than 120,000 hectares in just 3 years, which is really something interesting because farmers noted that water productivity under CA is more, and we give them more resilience. And also we try to include resilient varieties. We come with bundled solution, not only no-till system, but we need to add also resilient varieties that fortunately they are available thanks to our partners like ICARDA, CIMIT and others that work with us to develop this kind of germplasm, but it wasn't, achieved to farmers. This last mile is what we are trying to work now to try to farmers adopt this technology. And we have also a work on drip irrigation. It's also using some new technology like low pressure drip irrigation that ICARDA also work with NARS to develop this technology, and we share this with farmers and our partners. I think this kind of solutions need to be shared with also. We also include soil carbon sequestration initiative, and now farmers in Morocco receive some carbon credit if they want to adopt such as practices like the one, as I mentioned before, conservation agriculture technology. So the message is that when this innovation are existing, but we need to be more, can I say, focused on the context, because each area have to adopt the can I say the best and suitable practices, and we need also to come with bundled solutions, not only separate them. And that's the only solution if we can at least keep those farmers doing agriculture under this dry area. Again, if example Morocco, we have only 20% of agriculture land irrigated, but we need also to answer to 80% we are landfill. And I think that's why we succeed at least now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, let me just add two examples from ICADA. We also looking into the expansion of the crop species in face of the expansion of the drylands. As you know, each of the centers they have so-called the mandated crops, and it's good to sometimes to limit yourself, to stick what you know, and not just jump every occasion to other things. But for instance, we are working with INRA really to try to see what we can do with cactus, because cactus is an important crop in Morocco. Unfortunately, we have there were more than 100,000 hectares grown to cactus in Morocco. They have been wiped out by an insect, coccinelle, and because that's also something that's happening with expanding drylands, that we have new species of pathogens and pests that are attacking crops. And so this cactus plantation, which of course is clonal propagation, and that's why it becomes vulnerable. So this was completely wiped out by one insect, the coccinelle. Now a joint effort has identified some resistant types, and but it takes several years, a nationwide effort really to multiply the resistant varieties and to replant. So that will take probably at least 10 years. So, but spineless cactus is an important food and fodder crops. If you ask all the NAS, I always say, like in Siwana we have 29 NAS. If you ask around, I mean, what are the biggest limitations? What you hear most is the availability of fodder crops, because in this situation where drought is continuing, Dr. Rashid mentioned Morocco under dryland with the last 3 years, 4 years drought produced 3 million tons of cereals per year. In a normal year, let's say in a wet year, they produce 10 million tons. So that means more than 70% reduction. So if there, and then of course Morocco imports wheat, mainly wheat, from Canada, from Australia, and so on. And so if there is not even enough food for human nutrition, so even more the problem for animal nutrition. Morocco has started also to import livestock, and because there's just not enough food to feed the animals. So that's why a key question that often is said, I mean, if you can find a way how to produce livestock feed under the dry condition, then you solve a lot of problems. So that's why we're looking into expansion of the crop species. Spineless cactus is one option. There's a lot of replanting the plantation in Morocco, but also there's a lot of interest in India because they have a lot of wasteland, and cactus doesn't need a lot, and especially the spineless cactus can be used as animal feed, maybe not alone, but in mixtures. I mean, and the technology is there to cut it into pieces, into smaller pieces, to make it available for animals. So forage crops is another, because in our gene banks we have thousands of accessions to forage crop, and really to see, I mean, which ones can be used under the dried and drought conditions. Really to look to expand a little bit the species that are available and to provide options for farmers. Since many, many years, we have already a program in the Arabian Peninsula. So date palm is another important component for the desert farming system, or for the dryland farming system in the Gulf countries. So that's we are not having a breeding program for date palm, but we're looking into all other aspects of date palm. So how we can manage the date palm tree, the insects, the irrigation, and so on. But that's so expanding a little bit the species that we're working on is some of the innovations that we can provide to provide options for the dryland. Now, another round of questions, and which is the final one, is so for the implementation of the strategy. So this strategy was developed over the last year by asking each of the centers, to map into the 5 opportunities that we have listed here, what they're already doing. So I would say, roughly speaking, 50% of this strategy, 50% of the agenda is already funded and executed. But 50% is not 100%, right? So therefore the question is how can we upscale innovations for additional funding? Because for me, a strategy is really a plan that we set out. So as I said, about half, I think, of this is already funded. But how we can really get the other half funded? And so what are possible innovations that are attractive enough for a funding agency, for donor agency, in order to generate that funding for the implementation of the full strategy? Any ideas?
Sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, I took note of what you said, that some of the ideas were mapped into this strategy, so things are already ongoing. One thing could be that for the 50% that we have, we use that to address critical issues regarding scaling, to catalyze investments, bigger investments for the other 50%. I give an example of something that we're doing we know that, water is not available, and farmers have to diversify their cropping system and across seasons. So we promote solar power irrigation a lot in Africa and Asia. But the smallholder farmers do not have means usually to access credits to do this. How do we help them to actually access the equipment? So we have to work together with the private entities, because to go to scale, we have to bring in the private sector. The small developments, interventions here and there will not go to scale. The private entities have to help to be able to go up in. So that means understanding their system and working with them to actually identify the appropriate or define together, co-design, co-implement appropriate business models that will be able to reach different segments of farmers. And of course, even that, once they know that there are different segments of farmers and different packages can fit into their needs, it's still important to see how to find the appropriate financing model that will de-risk actually the private entities as well as de-risking the farmers. So those fine-tuning will be necessary when we want to scale innovations to be able to even attract, multilateral bank, all these development banks and big funding for scaling and bringing more of the private sector, either at the production level or in the post-production processing of foodstuff and all that. So we have to take all that into consideration. For us, within IMI, I talked about the water system strategy, which we are going to roll out also along with the dryland strategy, because it's an accompaniment. Two of the levers that we have identified that we are really going to work on, actually, we call them transformational levers. One is about financing, all forms of financing. We're looking at different forms of sustainable financing for different innovations to be able to go to scale. And the scaling approach itself What kind of scaling are we talking about? What kind of scaling pathways would be appropriate for which innovation, under which context and all that? So all those fine-tuning will need to be done within our, the initiatives, our scaling program we're going to, and then that could kickstart actions in terms of getting more funding. Now, we are here, COP, and climate funds there. Unfortunately, CGIAR is accredited, right? So we can stand on that to be able to work with government. So what we do at IMI to ensure is that we are part of party delegations. We are working with national governments to water the NDCs as much as possible to ensure that our innovations, our science is informing the kind of indicators, they're talking about water indicators here, the kind of indicators that they are putting in their NDCs and the kind of projects they want to develop. So we're working together. Tomorrow we're going to present at the Togo Pavilion, for example, the project we are co-designed together with them to attract GCF funding on behalf of CGIAR, by the way. So to do that, we need to embed ourselves in the national system very well, have those conversations, co-creation, collective action, and ensuring that the marginalized also, they are captured into those conversations and we're able to address everything as inclusive as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So on the question of scaling, maybe I would just use two examples. Really, scaling starts with listening. So in our case, in India, the Union Government of India and many of the state governments support the idea of school meal programs. And what we have found is that millet-based food products are very attractive to these school feeding programs. So what have we done? We've worked in several states in India to use the best quality millets, to work with farm organizations to produce those millets, to ensure then that the chain is also connected to a number of groups, especially women's groups, that process those millets and then that are actually served at the school level to hundreds and thousands of students across several states in India. So scaling is about listening, about understanding the policy drivers that exist within the jurisdictions in which we work. And in the case of the school feeding programs, it has worked extraordinarily well over the past 2 or 3 years. We also listen in sub-Saharan Africa, and when we met with the Minister of Agriculture in Mali 3 months ago, Mali is very focused on growing 1 million hectares of millet, but they know that they face several challenges in that work. So what we are doing alongside, and this is, I guess, from the funding standpoint, several international donors also are very interested in the kind of food security that can be made available through that type of planting within the country of Mali. So after listening, after realizing that we have some technology tools, after partnering with those key groups at the local level, at the regional level, and at the national level, these are the kinds of things that now we are scaling up on the ground right now, not something 5 years from now, in collaboration with our many partners.
Okay. As a national institute, it is difficult for us to attract big fund. Just we get the fund from our state budget. Also, there is one foundation, Azerbaijan Science Foundation. We also getting some grant from the Azerbaijan Science Foundation. But we are trying to be active in international projects. I mentioned we joined one big project, this BOLD project, and it is 10 years project. Next 10 years we will get some fund from the global diversity crop diversity trust. Also, we are trying to collaborate with the Horizon program in European Union. We are very active in cost actions. Just my lab, we have joined 16 cost program, and we collaborate many international and also European universities and research organizations. But also we are trying to get some benefit, some fund from the big companies. And that's why we think public and private partnership is very important. If we can show our good variety, we can get some fund from the companies. But I can say we have not a good experience on this area. We didn't get big fund from the big companies, but inshallah maybe in the future. We also want to join some your projects. ICRISAT, ICARDA, also Water Management Institute. You're international organizations, you know all donors, you have the big grants, but as a national institute or small country, we would like to be a part of such projects in the future. Thank you.
Can we ask Dr. Rashid Mosaddak, I mean, from your perspective, do you have examples of we can upscale innovation to attract additional funding?
Thank you, Michael. I think for scaling, the most important thing is while the innovation need to be well understood and well determined, identified. I give the example of CA, and I think there is other example, as you said, about tolerant crops and tolerant varieties, water management. Fortunately, we don't start from crash, but now how we can scale this innovation to be adopted by farmers. I think the most important thing is that we need first to align with the national strategies. We need that what we have developed should be adopted by the national strategies. You know, there is commitment. We are in the COP, and each country have already commitment enter NDCs, the national determined contribution, that they need to do something to support and to fund to align with climate actions goals. That's first one. We need also to launch some attractive, can I say, funding through really strategic outreach and branding. That's also something important because unfortunately, we don't need to show that dryland is only source of problem. We need to show that dryland is the one, and I think there is some paper developed recently showing that if we resolve the problem of drylands, maybe we can shift the issues of climate change because we have 41% of area in the world are dryland. My country is also most of 80% are dryland. So if we resolve these questions of dryland, we can all give opportunities to the new generation of farmers to have more decency, and we need to show that to donors that cost of no action is too high. So we need that they help us to promote these technologies that are available. As I said, the example that we have in Morocco in promoting 1 million hectare of CA, you know, this is 14 years of research, 40 years of research, but the adoption was very low. But when we put it under the this strategy of green generation, we get support from the ministry, we get support from private sector. Now there is bank also support the farmers too. And now we have also credit carbon companies. And I think this is what we need. We need to leverage the evidence, the based impact assessment. That also is important. We need also to monitor and evaluate impact that we are proposing, and we have data. Because without data, we couldn't give evidence to these donors that what we are doing will create some impact. Also, we need to have more open space to private sector to be there. It's not only issue of public. We need to involve private sector and maybe sign in some private public initiative that could be important. Issues of finance, I think it's important if we can create some incentive based the financial mechanism. That's also very important because if we don't find a way how we increase subsidies to those farmers who want to adopt this kind of innovation practices, it will be not really scaling. That's why I think we need also to look to this carbon credit and green band. That also can make some impact on the ground. So I think as scientists, we need to work jointly, NARS, CGIAR, to show these successful stories that if we share this in a good way, in marketing this, we can at least have more access to this finance. And I think this could be the only solution. And that's why I'm saying we need the engagement of international organizations like CGIAR and also other partners like FAO, World Bank. All those need to support us in this area because really the situation is too alarming. We need also to establish some regional or national innovation hubs where we make this bundled solution in same place that those donors can come and say, okay, oh, it will work. We can shift from marginality to something more productive. And I think this is, and also developing training and the capacity building to those farmers and stakeholders, because some of them, they don't know. They don't know that this innovation exists. They don't know that these crop resilient varieties, while it's there, but it's not well understood. That's why I think thanks that we have now some digital platform that can help. But again, if we don't work, can I say, with our partners and collaborations, we don't strengthen this collaboration that we have, I think the situation will be worse. But again, I think there is possibility to have some good example to share. And believe me, for example of Morocco, we receive now support from World Bank for this 1 million hectare because we show that it's work, it could work. It's not just something we did in experimental station. No, that's why I'm thanking CGIAR that they help us to go and to work with farmers to make it more accessible to them. And now the reality is that we can scale this kind of innovation.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly add 3 examples from ICARA perspective. One example is a project which is called the low methane emission project. This is a project funded by the Gates Foundation and Bezos Foundation in the amount of $28 million. This project basically brings together 3 centers, ILRI, CIAT and ICARA, to screen their gene bank accession. They have about 65,000 accessions related to forages, and screening the accessions for accessions that produce low methane after being fed to animals. I mean, to especially ruminants and small ruminants. Because you know, the methane emission from the ruminants is one of the biggest problems in agriculture, and so this is a kind of blue sky research funded by Bezos and Gates to identify accessions that produce low methane, and so that's just started this year, and will go for 5 years. And as I said, there are about 65,000 accessions in the gene bank of 3 centers. And hopefully they are able to identify some accession that can reduce at least methane emission by 50% or 80%. That would be a significant contribution to the reduction of methane through agriculture. Second example is, as you know, that last year the COP was in United Arab Emirates. Now, United Arab Emirates has joined the CG, the Fund Council, and pledged to spend $100 million, which was matched by the Gates Foundation with another $100 million. So this, not all of this is new money, but quite a bit of this one is actually new financing. And so they are looking for big projects to support. So one of the projects that we are currently working on to be developed is the so-called red palm weevil. Red palm weevil is an insect attacking date palm, especially in the Gulf countries, but meanwhile also in North Africa. It also attacks related families like coconut tree. And so that's why the Presidential Court, UAE, and the Gates Foundation, they're looking into finance a major project on strategies how to combat this red palm weevil, and we try to set up an international consortium that brings it together different disciplines such as early warning systems that is quite often being used to identify when the insect is actually attacking date palm plantations. There's a whole range of technologies related to biopesticides, that can be used in order to limit the spread, um, and several technologies. So we are trying to use this United funding from the United Arab Emirates to see what can be developed. A third example or a third interest also from the United Arab Emirates is the integrated desert farming system. Integrated desert farming system is a system that we have developed in the last few years together with other CG centers, really to see to integrate different aspects of the farming system in the drylands, specifically in desert areas. So this desert farming has a component of an agroforestry. So it's built around a tree. In the Gulf countries, it's usually the date palm. But let's say in Northern Africa, it can be another tree. It can be the olive tree. It can be a citrus tree. It can be an argan tree. So to bring agroforestry into the system for a number of positive benefits it has on soils and so on. The other component is the annual production, which can be, like in the Gulf countries, protected agriculture. So these are annual crops that are grown under glass house or net house conditions. And the third component is the animal feed. That animal feed is produced, and these three components, they are really integrated and maximized. For instance, the use of water. Before water is discharged, that it's recycled 2 or 3 or 7 times. In Egypt, they talk about 7 times recycling of the water before the charge. So really looking into integrated systems, and that's also an attractive model that the United Arab Emirates is interested to finance, maybe also to take it to Sahel. And so there are options which are being discussed at the moment. But these are opportunities. Now, Azerbaijan is a host of this year's COP. So who knows? I mean, maybe also Azerbaijan will join the CG, and we can see into also what are the options here, and to develop programs for the future, and especially really to look into innovative ways of addressing the problems in the country, the salinity, the lack of water resources, and so on. And so that's our thinking, and how we can make use of innovations to address specific problems. And the next COP is in Saudi Arabia, and let's see what we can, if we can convince Big Brother also to join the CG, and using the same model, and to see if they also can contribute as financial instruments and financial resources to scale up innovations that can benefit especially the dry areas. Are there any burning questions from the floor? We have 1 or 2 minutes that we might want to hear questions from the floor.
Thank you very much. I have no questions, only wish. You presented and we listened from A to Z, and we got a lot of information. I wish you good health. We are going to the end of 2024 year, and we are going to the new year 2025. And when you will return to your country, our best regards, sunny regards from Azerbaijan to your country. Never climate catastrophe in all countries. Thank you very much.
If anybody else, if there are no further questions, then we are ahead of time, I think. But thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much, my colleagues, for discussing. And I think it's an interesting session. And we hope that we can roll out, the Drylands strategy, and really see where we can benefit the communities in the Drylands. That is really the most important goal. And thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.